Welcome to the Maria Heller Show, the Internet's original podcast. Since the year 2000, always ahead of the curve, always on your side. A true warrior for truth and justice, Maria and her guests leave nothing out, and no one is off limits. There is only one truth, the rest is lies. Sit back, enjoy the education with a true daughter of Mother Earth. Sharp New York wit, spiritual knowing, and a very dry sense of humor, Maria will dissect the news and lies to make it all palatable. Education is power. Maria delivers rapid-fire truth like no one else can. Here she is, the mouth that roars, the legendary Meria Heller.
Good morning, world. Maria here, alive and kicking. Welcome to The Bigger Picture with myself and Michael Reccia. And today we're going to be discussing the bigger picture and talking points off From Here to Infinity, one of his latest books. And Michael's been busy, transferring his books to audiobooks. So good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Maria. It's great to be with you again.
It's always good to have you on the show. Michael, I know you've been really busy. I understand you're putting a lot of your books on audio. How's that going?
Well, we have 5 of the books thus far on audio. From Here to Infinity has just been mastered, so it should be available within the next 5 or 6 weeks. And we've begun the huge task of recording transmission. Now, transmission is a record of the public trance demonstrations we did right at the beginning to prove to people that we weren't sort of sitting somewhere in an office making this stuff up. Now, trance as a public facility is now too dangerous for me. I'm far too old for that, Maria.
I understand.
And so what we're trying to do is to recreate the atmosphere of what happened on those various nights. We'll through sound effects make it sound as though it's in a hallway, as it was. We'll have various people asking questions as they did, and it will be an opportunity for people to be as close as they could be to what each of those demonstrations was like at the time. Mm-hmm. But that's a huge undertaking. It's a huge book, as you know. It's twice the size of the other books. Right. So that will take us to the other side of Christmas, at the very least.
At least it's available. I know a lot of people prefer audiobooks. So
yes,
it's it's a labor of love.
It is. It is. Doesn't do much for my feet. The standing and recording, but apart from that, it is indeed a labour of love. It's the time to do it before, if my voice gets weaker in the foreseeable future, then these have been recorded for posterity.
Well, that's a good thing. Well, I have to tell you, looking at the world and how crazy it's going, I've been sending more energy to the field than I normally would.
Yes.
So what's the status of the field? Can we still turn it around?
Gosh, I think we ask this a lot, and I get asked this a lot at demonstrations, workshops, that type of thing. And as long as we have communication, as long as the communication is coming through from Joseph and the Soul Group, then yes, there is time to turn it around. I know it doesn't look that way, but as he's often said, if there was no hope, if the end was assured, then I wouldn't come through. I would simply wait for you on the other side and say, I told you so. Better luck next time,
right.
Which is something that he's not doing. He's continuing to communicate and continuing to fill in the gaps in our spiritual knowledge. The book that we're working on for next year, called tentatively The Spaces Between, is about that. It's about looking at the world through spiritual eyes and painting a very different picture than society paints, than our 9-to-5 existence paints. And he is providing further new information. And I believe he's doing that because he believes, not hopes, but believes sincerely that there is still time to change things. As you say, you've been putting more energy into the field, more light into the field. If we all did that, if every person on Earth did that today, we'd have no more worries. And that sounds a ridiculous thing to say, but that's how simple and how difficult it is.
Right.
It's simple because we're using God-like to change things. It's difficult because the majority of human beings on this planet don't believe that that's the way to change things. They believe the way to change things is via arms, via conflict, via politics, and none of those things, via commerce, and none of those things work because they are on a material level only. We are spiritual beings. If we ever want to change anything, we have to change it spiritually first. That's where we come from. That's where we are. That's what we are. And we keep saying the same message, but we have to get through to as many people as possible. The only way that you can change things is by linking to the divinity that's within yourself and bringing out light energy to irradiate this earth with enough light for those who are in the darkness at the moment to think, gosh, there's another way.
Right.
I can see things differently. And why can they see things differently? Because of the light. But instead, we fuel what the negative actions of people on earth with further negativity. We say, I can't stand this person. I don't like this situation. And we send out hatred, we send out anger, we send out negativity. And because we're spiritual beings, those things have force as well. Those things have energy as well. And we maintain the field as it is. So, the bottom line is, it is up to us. It's up to everyone, but it is up to us because we know that that's the action we should and must take.
Absolutely. And now, here I know you don't have time to follow politics. Lucky you. But here we have like a chief hater, a man who can stir up more hatred and more division than ever as president of this country. And you see how contagious it is by the divisions that have it seemingly immediately appeared in the country.
Yes.
So everybody seems to have caught the wave of fear and hate instead of love and patience.
And it builds. It, as you say, it spreads. It links person to person to person. And it pours out into the field of human consciousness. And that negativity is exactly what the field of human consciousness wants, to maintain itself in the negative state that it's in at the moment. So it's in the interest of the field to say, this is great. Everybody's being stirred up. Everybody's hating. Everybody's angry. I love this. Do it more, please. Mm-hmm. And it's a vicious circle, but we have to break that circle, that cycle.
Wow.
And we have to, we've all got opinions about people, we've all got opinions about political factions, we've all got opinions about political personalities, about dictators, about this country and that country, but we have to step back from those. And we step back by stepping inside, by going within ourselves, by getting to our core and bringing out light dispassionately, looking at, as our show is titled tonight, the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. Looking at the bigger picture and projecting the bigger picture.
Right.
We'll never be able to transmit light from our heads. It doesn't work that way. The head says, I hate this person, I don't like this situation, there's no point in you doing this. But the heart knows. The heart is our connection to divinity. And by going to the heart, we can get away from the head mind, get away from those prejudices, and send out light purely, without restrictions, without conditions, and change things.
Right. Well, I have to tell you that it's very easy, even for myself, because I cover the world situation. It's very easy to get into that anger. And, sometimes I have to say to myself, is this anger or is this righteous indignation? Going back to my Bible days, there was a whole lot of righteous indignation in the Bible. And, my spirituality is the only thing that's keeping me in check. It's the only thing that's keeping me in balance in a world that obviously wants to knock us off, all of us off balance. So it's difficult.
Yes, it is. It is difficult. And we are conditioned. We're conditioned from birth to think in a certain way, to have certain prejudices, to have certain viewpoints of the world. But what we're trying to do is replace our material viewpoint with our spiritual viewpoint. And our spiritual viewpoint is not difficult to maintain if we look from that viewpoint daily. Because the spiritual viewpoint illuminates not just the world, but illuminates us as well, and allows us to take that breather and that step back, and to look at things as they really are. And things are not as they seem. Yes, it's a very dark time, but things are not as they seem. It's not brother against brother and sister against sister. It's spirit against spirit. And ultimately, it's self against self. Because at core, we are all the same thing. We are individual viewpoints of God, but we are each a part of God. Therefore, if we're each a part of God, we are each a part of each other. And so we're fighting ourselves. And in getting that, going to that spiritual viewpoint daily, we realize this. And it makes it far easier to send out the light. It makes it far easier to calm down, to step away from the field of human consciousness for a while, and to step into our God consciousness. And to think from the heart, what does divinity want in this situation? Does divinity want war? No. Divinity wants every soul to transform into what that soul really is, an angelic being, and to transform back, not to become something that we haven't been before, but to remember who we are, and to transform into the harmonious spiritual being, each of us, that we really are, to link across the world, and to transform this world as well. Now, it sounds like a fairy story, but it isn't. This is spiritual physics. This is spiritual science. And it's something that we have to investigate and we have to do. Our world is in such a state because nothing material can get us out of it. Nothing material, no material solution works or lasts. The only solution, and we've got to be brought back to this finally, is the spiritual one.
Right. Well, that kind of reminds me of a quote by Martin Luther King, I believe, where he said that a nation that spends its time and money on war and killing eventually ends up spiritually dead.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
So
and we are spiritually dead. We're spiritually asleep, many of us, because we don't acknowledge the spiritual. We acknowledge the material in our world. We acknowledge the emotional in our world. We acknowledge the pain in our world. But we see ourselves as these physical beings only, and that is so sad. We don't investigate the spiritual. And by spiritual, I don't mean religious. When you say spiritual, a lot of people withdraw, and there's a sharp intake of breath, and they think you're talking from a religious bias, and they close down.
Right.
Spirituality has absolutely nothing to do with religion.
I always say religion gives God a bad name.
Absolutely. God and religion are not the same thing. God is nothing to do with religion. God is the way that things are. God is the way that we are at core. It is, we're denying a part of ourselves. We're denying the major part of ourselves. And this is where the problem lies. We're always trying to find that in material things. We're always trying to find that in power. We're always trying to find that in ego. It doesn't exist in any of those things. It exists at our core, within us, in our reconnection with God. If we reconnect through the heart-mind daily, then our need for power, our need to bolster our ego, our need for material things fades, because we have that harmonic connection with the divine that brings us exactly what we need.
Absolutely. Well, I had a guest on yesterday. We did a spiritual show as well. And she said that divinity is as simple as connecting to the I am.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But there's a step there in that you have to recognize that the I am exists.
Right.
And God, unfortunately, has become a dirty word. If I mention God in a workshop, you can see, I've had people walk out of workshops because they've said, I can't cope with this, you've mentioned God.
Right.
That's how anti-God we are at the moment. And I'm not talking the God of religion. I'm not talking, the traditional view of God as, I don't know, Morgan Freeman or Charlton Heston or something like that. I'm talking about the connection that we all have, the energy that flows through us, the creative force of this universe and other universes. That's the God that we've got rid of. That's the God that we've pushed out. And it's so frightening that we won't acknowledge the divinity within us.
Right.
What's even more frightening is that divinity is us.
Right. Well, that I think is the hard part for people to understand. So when you talk about God, people don't realize that they are God. The words, and I will tell you that I have mentioned to a few people that I've recommended your books to. When he uses the word God, don't go into a panic. It's not what he's talking about. Because, like you said, even that's become a bad word because of people's misunderstanding. When the Beatles came out and sang about, that, I am you and you are me and we are one together, they were accused of blasphemy and heresy. But they were pretty much telling us the truth, that we are all one and we are all the God force. Or as Buddha said, God is the ocean and we're each a drop.
Yes, yes. Each a viewpoint of God. Isn't that a marvelous thing? To think that today we are part of God. We are not lost. We are not finite. We are not limited. We are not loveless. We are part of God and part of each other. And, in families you always get squabbling, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
But we are family.
Uh-huh.
We are, each of us, family, whether we acknowledge it or not. It exists as a truth despite what we believe. Despite what we believe. And the people that we like are family, and the people that we dislike are family. And the people who dislike us are family. We are family to them, whether they believe it or not. Mm-hmm. And eventually, we have to harmonize and link up again. Whether it's in this cycle of events, and please God it is, or whether we are stupid enough to come back and do the whole thing again until we realize what we actually are. And this is the reason that Joseph and the Soul Group come back, because they don't want to leave family unattended, unhelped, unloved.
Well, they must have a lot of love to do that for us. A lot of love, because I can tell you I'm questioning my own sanity for arriving on this planet when I did. But I guess it's love. What other reason would we choose to come here except from love? Because the majority of the human race is in a really serious and pathetic state right now. And truthfully, if I didn't love, I would not be able to do the work I do.
And I think there's a very important thing that you said there, Maria, because this is something else that people don't understand. You don't have to like someone in order to love them.
Oh, I've said that my whole life. What? Right. I've said that my whole life.
Yes.
I remember when my kids were little, if they were doing something heinous and I had to punish them, I would tell them right to their faces. I would say, listen, I don't like what you're doing, but I still love you.
Absolutely. And that's the attitude we have to take with the people who are perpetrating such terrible things at the moment.
All right.
I don't like you at all. But I do love you because you are, one, my brother or my sister, and two, you are part of me, and three, we are each a part of God. I cannot unlove part of myself. Therefore, I cannot unlove you.
Right.
Therefore, I love you.
Well, I have to tell you, the hardest thing for me to do at night is to send light and love to Trump, to North Korea, to Congress, to all these wicked people. And it really is difficult. And I mean, I've been on my soul's journey since I arrived, and it's difficult. So I could imagine how difficult it is for people that are just getting started on their journey. Anyway, Michael, I do have questions from listeners that are pretty interesting. So I wanted to get to some of them. One of them is from Pat, and it's a good one. It's one of those questions that makes you think. She's all talking about ancestry. The latest thing here in the United States is to get your DNA checked to see what your ancestry is.
Oh, right.
And one of my good friends, I've been trying to teach him Italian, none of the good words. I've been trying to teach him Italian. We've been friends forever. And he actually went and did it. And he found out he's 1% Italian. So when he can't pronounce some of the choice words I'm teaching him, I said, that's because you're only 1%. And we laugh about it. But when you look at that, and my own opinion is there's evil behind people doing that. I think it's a good way of collecting people's DNA. But that's a story for another show. But Pat asked a really good question. She says, with all this obsession now with ancestry, which lifetime has the most influence on who we are right now? Is it our present life, or is it the soul experiences of all our past lives?
Yes, I think it's a combination of the two. I was considering aspects of my personality this morning and trying to figure out why I react or have reacted in a certain way as I've been growing up with regard to certain situations. Mm-hmm. And in quiet meditation, I'm reasoning out that not only am I learning by approaching certain situations in this way, but my approach, which needs refining, has been a result of this life, but also other lives that I've lived. Mm-hmm. It's strange, this DNA thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I think there's a similar website here where people say, well, I'm 1% Martian and I'm 2% Ukrainian and I'm 5% Scots, but really we're none of those things. Mm-hmm. We have a spiritual DNA, if you like, which is what we're just talking about. And the 1% this and the 5% that are just trappings. We all drive different types of car, but we don't say, I'm part of that car. Or, right. I'm 5% aluminium, and I'm 5% steel, and I'm 5% plastic, because that's what my car is.
Right.
This physical body is only the equivalent of a car. Yes, it's got a lineage, because that's how we arrive here. But that lineage is not necessarily linked to the spiritual lessons that we've got to learn. Now, we don't know who we've been. We don't know how long we've been around here. We've been male, we've been female, we probably had situations of poverty, situations of great riches. But those things are not important. It's what we've learned from those things that's important. And again, if you go to the heart center and you say, look, I act in a certain way, and I'm trying to change that way, inspire me. And you won't necessarily get a video playing in front of you of who you've been and what you've done, but you will get assumptions. You will get things that coalesce, that seem to make sense. In other words, I'm like this because I need to learn that.
Right.
I've got a need to learn in this area. I've got a need to progress in that area, and you will get a sense that it comes from perhaps this life, or it comes from this life, and a combination of other lives.
Right.
We're here we've chosen to come back, unfortunately. Whatever our mission in life, we've also got to evolve individually as souls. And so we will find things that keep cropping up in our lives. We will see patterns and think, how could I be in this situation again? How could I have acted in this way again? Mm-hmm. And those are the areas that we've got to embrace and to love and to say, what do I do next time? And to ask for inspiration and ask for guidance of ourselves and of the God within, and to work on the answers that we get in order to evolve those patterns. And once we've evolved the pattern, we will find that aggravation in our life, that area that needed changing, suddenly disappears. It's gone. We don't encounter it again.
Right.
We've learned. And then another one will come to the fore.
Right.
Another aspect of the spiritual DNA will raise its ugly head and say, you haven't dealt with me yet.
Right. Well, you know what I find?
We go on another learning experience.
Right. Well, you know what I find, because I do a lot of private sessions with people, and a lot of times, I can dig into their Akashic records, but I also tell people that we've all probably had hundreds, maybe thousands of lifetimes here. But when I'm in a session with someone, the past lives that are affecting this one are the only ones that show up to me. Yeah. And I will explain to them that lifetime and how that's affecting them here. And sometimes just knowing that is enough to clear that from their energy field.
Yes. To realize that it's a situation that's been hanging about because they haven't yet sorted it. They haven't approached it in the right way, thought about it in the right way. And I think the other way to look at these things is as opportunities. To say, well, I probably made a mess of that, but I've got an opportunity to do it in the right way or do it in a different way at a later stage in my life. And the goal is for me to evolve and for my vibrations to quicken spiritually so that when I go back to the spiritual realms, I can live a little closer to higher authority, a little closer in the way that I think and the way that I operate to the God that is within me. So if we can turn our lives around and say that the dark spots, or seemingly dark spots, are really nothing of the sort. They are opportunities to grow and to learn and to become more. And if we love them, if we embrace them, if we put light into them, which was how we started the show, then we transmute them as well.
Right.
And we truncate the amount of time it takes for us to go through certain situations and to evolve from them and to leave them behind.
Right.
So again, love and light into our present life and into the past experience that we brought into this life.
Mm-hmm. Well, she also asked, she has family members she doesn't get along with, and could that be because of past life issues that we've brought into this one?
That is, again, it can be one of two things, can't it? It can be simply because the person who is causing the aggravation has something to teach us and we have something to teach them, or it can be that we have incarnated with a group, a number of people, or a single person that we've been with before in a past life, and we are trying to resolve something with them and work out something with them that we haven't, to this point, worked out and resolved. It's no coincidence that we're with the people that we're with. It may be that we encounter them for the first time during this life, but in many cases, the people that are closest to us, we have known before.
Right.
We have worked out situations with before. So it depends on the individual, but always something will be learned from that situation. Not necessarily by the person that's on the receiving end of the upset, of the trouble,
right,
but by the person who is causing the trouble themselves. And every situation, it helps to look at every situation, as we've said, as an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
To say, well, look, this looks bad today, but what can I do about it? What am I learning from it? What is the other person learning from it? Is it part of the repeating patterns of my life? No day is wasted. No interaction with anyone is wasted. And there is never a single day when we wake up and it is what it appears to be. It is never a 9-to-5 day. We might be working 9 to 5 on one level, but we are working 24/7 on another level to elevate ourselves and elevate the people around us, whether we acknowledge that or not.
Mm-hmm.
So these challenges will inevitably come to us. There is no one person on this earth that challenge doesn't come to. And it comes to us for a reason, to wake us up, to make us more than we were when we came here, and to eventually allow us to send out that light we've been talking about, to change those situations.
Uh-huh. Well, she also asked if we carry over aspects of our past genealogy in reincarnation, because she wonders why one child will get a certain sickness and no one else in the family will get it. Is there such a thing as carrying over your genes from a past life?
We certainly carry over our genes on a physical level, but we bring with us a predisposition to experience certain challenges. Inevitably, when we reincarnate on this level of consciousness, we reactivate and we draw towards us from the field the vibrations, the dominant earthy vibrations of our past lives. It's one of the great upsets of choosing to reincarnate here. Inevitably, those vibrations, because they are in our soul record as a physical being, are actually pulled towards us, and we to them from the moment that we are born. So from the moment that we are born, there are certain traits, certain challenges that inevitably will come to us. And this is why it's so dangerous to incarnate here again and again and again, because we might think that as a spirit, well, I've got rid of that. That's not a problem anymore. That's nothing to do with how I view life. But once you get here, you begin to attract. You have a magnetic quality that pulls out of the ether and pulls out of the energy field that is not just an energy field for today, but is an energy field of the human race going back to the point where we began to incarnate here. You pull out of that energy field your record. You pull towards yourself your spiritual history. You pull towards yourself your spiritual genealogy, if you like, but it's not linked to DNA. It's linked to who you've been and what you've accomplished and what you've done and what you feel you still have to accomplish from the past on a spiritual level.
Right.
So it is a very dangerous place. And we have to, again, for that reason, surround ourselves with light. Infuse ourselves with light so that those vibrations that come to us and try to link us with past trials and try to re-energize past challenges can't get a hold. If they are of a lower vibration than our personal spiritual vibration, they cannot get a hold. So we can push away those challenges whilst we are here. But again, it's to do with linking into the God within, and it's to do with irradiating ourselves with light, so that we become a beacon for the light, but also we become higher than the vibration of the field, which then is our protection.
Right. Well, thanks for that. Michael, we're going to go to a short break. Stay with us. Michael and I will be right back. Hi, Meria here, and I have a message. Due to the pressure of the times we're living in, I'm calling on all students and millennials to get the education they need to fight the fascism taking over our world. I've made a special subscription offer for students and for seniors on a limited budget. For just $9.99 a month, you can subscribe and get that education. Over 500 hours of real education that's necessary to understand the world, the problems, and the solutions. Remember, knowledge is power. Together you can change the world, but to do so you must be informed of what's really going on and have real facts to support you in your endeavors. It's time for all the grandmothers to take a stand and teach the younger generation what their life could be and how to get there. Help me help you. One person cannot do it alone, and the guidance you seek is right here at www.meria.net, meria.net. Your generation is the generation we've been waiting for, so let me help you. Thanks for listening. Hi, this is Maria Heller. If you're enjoying this show, please consider listening to the rest of it, along with hundreds of other hours of education, by a small subscription on my site. Get over to meria.net, meria.net. You are the only thing that supports this show. There's no corporate control, and there's plenty of education on site. So please consider either a subscription or a donation to keep the work going. There are too many alternative voices out there that are being silenced because of lack of support. So if you don't want MSM to be the only mind-controlling news out there, please consider supporting the people that support you. And help us all save something for the future for our children. Thank you so much.